The Building Brands Marketing Podcast is dedicated to exploring the journeys of industry leaders who have successfully built a brand. Join me, Robert Breuer, president of Building Brands Marketing, and an entrepreneur who's successfully scaled multiple brands as we dive deep into the strategies, challenges, and insights that have shaped the success of industry leaders and provide you with the resources you need to do the same. Building Brands Marketing is a full-service marketing agency specializing in crafting customized marketing strategies for service-based businesses with a creative powerhouse to drive real results. Welcome to the Building Brands Podcast. Welcome to the Legal Leaders series of the Building Brands Podcast. Today, we welcome John Willbur, owner and attorney of Wilbur Law. Welcome, John.
Robert, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Absolutely, my privilege. John, can you start by telling us about Wilbur Law, how it came to be, and what sets your firm apart in the business litigation space?
Sure, I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about that. So I began my career as a prosecutor, spent about 4 years as a state attorney here in Florida. But before that, I grew up in a small business family, and sort of my after-school time was spent not at daycare or with a babysitter, but rather at the family business. We had a small independent insurance agency. Now, mind you, when I stay at the business, most of the time I spent in the supply closet, where all the cool stuff was.
Yeah.
During that period of time, we had lawyers for the family who were incredibly effective and served our family well. But I noticed throughout my childhood that there was something missing. And it wasn't until later in life that I kind of realized one of the problems that small businesses can have with lawyers is the counselor aspect, meaning legal services can be provided, but are you servicing that need that provides, to the extent it's possible, a peace of mind? It's a terror that people have upon them when their little, their world is crumbling, which is what happens when business owners are faced with litigation opportunities or litigation challenges as they see it. Being able to provide that counsel aspect provides a space where it's not just the solution that's provided, but an understanding. And the understanding component can be difficult to convey. And that is also answering the final part of your component of your question, is what sets Wilbur Law apart? It's a collaborative effort with our clients, not to be confused with lack of client control, but it's collaborative. And the idea is that we operate in a space what I call financially driven litigation tactics, where you can only do two things in civil law. You can maximize gain or you can minimize loss. That's it. As a prosecutor, maybe there's, an idea of justice. You hope so. Aspirationally, it's true. But in civil, no one's guilty. No one's innocent. No one's not guilty. You have liable, not liable, things like that, breach, not breach. The moral component is intentionally absent, and helping clients understand that we're here to maximize the value of their time and our services is what sets us apart.
Yeah, John. So how do you incorporate that personal counselor style support that you talk about into your branding and client experience?
The branding can be a little bit tough because all those words I just said are branding, and it doesn't necessarily digest to the individual. So it really it translates to an individual custom package message. The ability to speak effectively has to do with being able to tailor the message to an adjustable package to the intended audience. So the exact same idea gets conveyed to one person far differently than it does to another. And that's not very helpful to understand that, in just a broad term, but there's really no better way to explain it other than it's about an individual assessment and engagement with the individual.
Makes sense. And just kind of pivoting a different direction for a second in the conversation. I know in talking to you prior to this show, one thing that stood out to me from our prep call was your phrase that you mentioned, conveying value while making it look easy. So tell me, what does that mean to you in the context of your brand and client work?
So the making it look easy part is that a lot of what your business clients need to be paying you for is to take that problem off their plate and let them go back to what they're doing, making money, however it is they do it. And in that sense, making it look easy means that removing the stress from them, removing the need for them to be stressed, removing the need to worry about things, but specifically articulating that, let me take this burden from you. At the same time, as you do that, it can seem like it's so easy and so simple that the value is lost without helping them understand what precisely is being done. And so by articulating through multiple methods, it's not just in one point in time, and ideally before they get an invoice, right? What it is that you're doing that is providing this removal of burden, whether it's combating allegations, whether it's assembling our own allegations, putting up affirmative defenses, or collecting evidence, which is going to be used to aid our negotiation platform, that aid in the acceleration of a resolution rather than protracted litigation, which of course is really rarely in the interest of the client.
Interesting. So, are there any positioning tactics that you use to help reinforce this concept for your prospective clients?
Each client that I work with, we start out with understanding what their previous experience, if any, has been with litigation. Well, it really starts the minute they walk in the door. One of the first things I ask a client is, what does victory look like to you? And there's a couple of reasons for that, Robert. And some of them are the obvious. Can I obtain what they want for victory? But the more in-depth examination of that question has to do with it. No, I can't, because every client walks in the door wanting the same thing, and it's blood, or not to be there, or the sort of things that really aren't deliverable with anybody's services, let alone that are limited to the scope of legal services. So when I ask what does victory look like, it's two things. It's one, to get the client to say out loud what they really want, and so they can actually hear it themselves, and they say, I want this other person, to burn in a fire, or I want this all to go away. To help them understand what they want is understandable, not reasonable. And so that's where it starts, is with that. After that same question I talked about, what's your prior experience? And we present the client with a memo that talks about the life cycle of a civil suit, not hiding from them the fact that this is going to be, the minute a complaint is filed, you start the clock at 18 months minimum, more than likely for litigation to resolve, maybe longer. That it's not about under delivering and over promising and over delivering. It's about really, it's hardcore hitting facts, man. You do clients no services by sugarcoating the truth, because the truth is coming. The reality of the case is coming. So if you can prep them for the understandings of where the difficulty lies, and then if you happen to be successful, then that value that we were talking about earlier has been conveyed in a prior sort of pre-step, same thing. And so then there's an understanding that what's been achieved, although not 100% perceived by them, is of value and was difficult.
Yeah, and I think that you hit the nail on the head with setting expectations and things like that. A certain phrase, or I guess saying, that I've heard a lot as it relates to law firms is, it's a severe red flag if a law firm is promising a certain result upon the initial needs analysis or the initial consultation. That's a red flag, because you can really only promise you're going to fight your hardest, and put your best foot forward. It's very difficult to promise an end result. And I know in your case, while, you're describing a lot of the things you do to back up your brand and, also build a brand value to a certain degree. One of the things is, in talking with you prior to the show, is you've relied heavily on referral-based marketing. And while that's very common in the legal industry, exclusively relying on that is pretty rare. So that's impressive in today's marketing-heavy legal landscape that exists. So I'm curious, again, while referrals are not uncommon at all in law firms, that's usually the largest inbound strategy that most law firms have. Many of them use different tactics in the middle of funnel to build trust and consideration. They don't rely exclusively just on the referrals. So what relationship building strategies have you used that have worked best for you over the years?
That's a great question. Just real quick, touching on the red flags about promising guaranteeing results. One of the reasons why that's just such a red flag is that invariably you were talking about, at a minimum, of 2 or 3 other human beings, and guaranteeing what the conduct of other human beings is going to be. Man, that's more like future predicting. And it's just, it's like, I can guarantee I'll be the best lawyer there, right? But that doesn't guarantee that everyone else will agree and then concede to my points.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get to the thing you want to do, but I'm not going to listen to your direction too much, I guess. No, I'm sorry. But as a business owner, I understand the desire to want to provide the reassurance needed to close the deal, just candidly. But you cannot begin the relationship with that kind of false sense of security. They're going to need to be able to trust you when it's good, but they're going to have to trust you when it's bad. And so that's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
that's
Yeah, you want to talk about a quick way to scrap up your referral pipeline? That's
yeah,
that's an easy
that's
way to
not
do
so
it.
great. So a little bit of it, Robert, was it's very well worked to my favor that I didn't plan totally, if I'm honest. Like I didn't plan this part. And it's that I began as a criminal prosecutor, never intending to go into that at all. I had worked at a rather well-known South Florida prestigious summer internship, which turned into a part-time, basically associateship while I finished up my last year and a half of law school. And that was incredibly educational and very, very informative. And I was grateful for that opportunity. But it's a little bit of a meat grinder hazing experience also. And in my last semester of law school, I had the opportunity to become a certified legal intern, which lets you, under the supervision of a barred state attorney, operate almost a fully functional attorney. And I got to try three cases in my last semester, and that was so much more fun than getting told how wrong all of my memos to partners were, that I thought I would turn down my civil offer for about half that money to become a prosecutor for 4 years. And during that time, I met a really great group of individuals who have, by and large, also now left the state attorneys and gone into various practices. And I'm talking about a group of probably 8 to 15 people that are really close friends of mine that I still spend quite a bit of time with, but none of them went into complex business litigation. And so by simple default, every one of those guys sends their work to me. But I didn't stop there. I kind of realized that it was going to be a long game for me and that criminal law would not be my long-term plan. And so even while I was a state attorney, I heavily networked inside of the local voluntary bar associations, became members of the subcommittees, at one point ran a podcast for them. And I really saw who were going to be the leaders of my sort of entry point into the law. I won't say generation, it's not quite that broad. But I know that one day that these people will be decision makers at the larger civil law firms in town, and I developed relationships there. And not with all of them, but with quite a few, they've panned out. And so when conflict work comes up with these larger firms, and that is often when you're these 100 attorney plus firms, I'm one of the names that gets circulated for to send the conflict work. That is a business model I watched work for another attorney I mentored me, and I thought, I'm 35 years younger than that guy. I can get in on the next round of decision makers at some of these firms, and that's really been the two versions of it. And the way to make sure that if you keep those referral pipelines smooth is stay at top of mind. I know it sounds silly, but taking people to lunch, going to Top Golf, gym workouts, anything you can to kind of like get somebody
Yeah.
outside of that. Just staying at top of
Doesn't
mind is honestly a big part of it.
doesn't sound silly to me at all. Now, I'm probably slightly biased, but I'm a relationship guy through and through. So I
Well,
think
Robert, tell me, do
that's
those things sound like what else? I'll take some advice from you then here. Jeez.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that you hit the nail on the head of like, hey, these little things. I think so I'm 35 years old, about to turn 36 next month.
Young
My
man, about
generation.
45 here, about to turn 46. So yeah, you're a young guy.
Yeah. So one of the things about my generation that I think we try to shortcut and probably isn't the right thing is, some people in my generation, they take their, work-life balance very seriously and everything. And I respect that. However, I totally disagree with the fact like, hey, I have a college education or this amount of experience. This should give me what I need to get to the next level in my career. The reality is the relational component to it is an extremely critical piece. And just having the knowledge, it's just like musicians, right? I've heard some amazing musicians in my life, ones that I cannot believe, and they might be performing on a street corner, and I'm like, how are they performing here? They're outstanding. Well, the reality is they didn't have the right relationships, the right marketing, the right whatever, or maybe they just didn't want to make a living doing that, which is a very real possibility as well. But I think we undervalue the relational component to this whole success formula, right? And the idea, the little things, the Top Golf, the lunches, the podcasts, the bar association podcast, right? Like people might go, well, that's not even like your target clients. That's just
yeah,
other
right,
attorneys.
Yeah.
Did that help you?
Yeah, yeah. You know what? You never know what's going to work the best, but yeah, I would say that invariably that was worth my time, and I mean that strictly monetarily speaking, like that ended up being worth my time. And again, people just heard a couple of things, and it was just a way to kind of exist and kind of increase the awareness of something. I know I'd have to tell you that there is no one component to your marketing that creates anything. It's a fully developed footprint that really is what you're looking for. And I happen to be best, and I guess by best I mean most interested in and enjoy relationship engagements. Like those are the kind of things. It's the easiest thing for me. Maybe some people's content creation and posting kill me now. I'm just terrible at that. But developing and maintaining those relationships, and to drive home your point about the relationship aspect and degrees and what I'm entitled to, every one of the things that I just mentioned on my little walk of where I've been, every single secured position, the door was opened by a relationship of some kind. And you've got to close that door and walk through it, not in that order. But the door was opened by some kind of relationship. That just simply the case.
Yeah, I was at a buddy's birthday party. This was 2 weeks ago in Houston. He's a close friend of mine, grew up with him, but he actually is now a client. He owns a home service business and he's a client. He would never go to any other marketing company because, we're that close. It's like a given, right?
Sure.
Well, anyway, at his birthday party, his partner, which is something we'll get to, partners and relationships in business and everything in just a second, but his partner had his 20-year-old nephew there. And his 20-year-old nephew 21, just graduated with a marketing degree from Ohio State. Don't quote me on that, but a college from Ohio nevertheless. And anyway, he came up to me just cold and started talking. And this kid was really, he started talking to me. He said, my uncle told me you have a marketing company. I have a marketing degree. I'm looking to kind of figure out what should be next steps I should take in order of, self-certifications, things like that to further my skill set, to position me better to be hired. He didn't ask me for a job at all. That's not the conversation.
Well, I mean, he didn't, Robert, but I mean, you and I have my undergrad degree is in marketing, and yes, he sure did, Robert. But he asked it in the right way. Like he asked it in the absolute right way. Like that door will open if it fleshes out. Like he doesn't need to say. He's at least got I like this kid already. I don't know, Robert. Maybe you should hire this guy.
Well, my point is, he asked it in the exact right way to be appealing to me, as opposed to just saying, "Are you hiring?" And
he didn't say, "Give me." He said, "Help me get better," and that's who you want in your team. Yeah.
Exactly right. He said, I know I don't have the experience. Even my degree probably doesn't give me all the tools. What are the things I can do right now to position myself to be willfully or gainfully employed in this area?
That's the kind of you got to get out of the way of people like that. That kid's got to figure out pretty young. I don't think I had it together at 21 or whatever it was. But
exactly. And the fact that is exactly what I thought, John. I was like, man, you're 21. Like, I didn't get that until I was like 26, 27, maybe even after that.
I got to be honest.
And I didn't even figure out life really until I was probably 30,
That's
and so
cortex stuff, Robert. I got the same.
Yeah, when he came up at 21 and was talking to me like this, I was like, man, this kid's going to be bright. And I told his uncle, I said, hey, man, that kid, he's got it. He understands exactly what he's doing right now. He's planting the seeds, and he actually just shot me a text this weekend, casually over Easter weekend. Just, hey,
top of front of mind thing.
Just a happy Easter. Just send you a follow-up, letting you know, hey, if there's any other resources you could send my way of things I could do to improve, let me know. And I was like, hey, I really appreciated that, but my point is, that is not the everyday 21-year-old. So that kid, it's just a grown man. That man is.
Yeah, well, I wasn't at 21. That's for sure. Yeah. But this guy sounds like he's a little different character.
Exactly, and he's got it. I think that alone is going to make him stand out from the pack today, and it's because he understood the relationship component and the importance of that. And that's my point of all that.
Well, it's not just that he'll stand up from the pack. It's that, at some point he'll get some sort of traction somewhere, and that it wasn't just something he said. If it rings true to you, someone who deals with people who are talking all the time, there's probably some ethos behind it too, like some actual real drive and desire to be in that, and that they'll have a substantive advantage there pretty quickly.
Yeah. And like I always say, hey, the best thing you could do is walk into a room where no one. Be scared, because everybody is scared in a situation like that, or you have a certain level of anxiety, and just make yourself comfortable. Like, that is probably one of the best relationship scenarios to practice. And I try to do it all the time. But anyway, that's relationships. I can't stress it enough. But completely different subject, but it does involve relationships. And I kind of teased on it. I know in talking with you prior to the show, one of the things that I have experience with, luckily it's worked out for me, but you've seen a lot of business partnerships and seen them crumble and fall apart. I've been in a couple business partnerships. Most of the time they've been good. The business partner that I turned into a partner for Building Brands Marketing, and he truthfully earned it. It wasn't due to me. It was because of him. We've had a great partnership, and it's been fantastic. And, and doing that was led to a lot of scalability of the business. But I'm curious, what's the biggest legal blind spot most entrepreneurs have when starting a business with friends or family?
I'm so glad you asked me this. This is one of my favorite things to get into. And to anybody watching this, I hope this gives you some kind of 30,000 foot of perspective, but don't be too hard on yourself if you hear this and 10 years from now you're like, oh gosh, because it's so hard to do. And there's two reasons, Robert. Robert, when we start a company, and I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur before I became a lawyer, I had a bunch of ideas that kind of took off. Some were okay, did okay, and some were just terrible. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're starting a company, all you think about is selling that next cog or whatever its equivalent is. You don't give a damn about it because nothing else matters. If you have the most robust and substantive legal documents that formed your company, it doesn't matter because, like, did you sell enough cogs to make rent, to make payroll, to make your
You're trying to
supplies
survive.
costs? Man, and it is a terror that is upon you, and it's an all-consuming one because nothing else matters if this doesn't get done. But if you happen to be successful, then there's a lot that can happen. And there's a couple of things that eat you alive. And it starts with that, with the cog thing, which is not, I don't know what to tell you. I agree that we don't have it in the budget to do X. Like, well, I hear you, but we'll see. The other thing is my father has this expression that I really like, and it's called the greater the familiarity, the greater the formality. And how that works out is this. If you
Love
and
it.
I are best friends, Robert, and that's who you start your businesses with, is your friends and family. I mean, that's who I started so many of mine with. And we agree that I'm in charge of ABC and you're in charge of XYZ. We go on about the business, the years go by, and the business is having quite a bit of success. But for whatever reason, I have been falling down on C, and without even really thinking about even picking up C, even though yours was XYZ and I was ABC. And the next thing you know, we're even more successful. And so more burdens are upon us. Maybe we're not the best at delegating and we're becoming overwhelmed with our own success. And there's some irritation building about you picking up C, not the least of which is that I seem to not be appreciative at all about it. Because in all honesty, I've totally forgotten that I was supposed to be doing C. You've been doing it for 2.5 years now. And now when you blow up about it, it seems like, what are you talking about? You've been doing this for years. If you didn't, and so let's rewind that. What I'm trying to say is that when you're friends, we do favors for each other without thinking about it. We will be irritated with each other and we'll just shrug it off without, and we will take unspoken and unintended advantage of each other's good graces until it becomes this serious problem. And so what does the formality help us with? It at least provides this roadwork, and it's still very hard to do as friends. Where, Robert, you can come to me and say, John, I've been picking up C for a while. And by the way, you're not out of favors with me or anything. I'm going to be doing C today. I'll be doing C tomorrow. But this document said you were going to do C, and I just want to know: are we shifting that to me full time, or is that coming back to you? And just having that down in writing, that would be understanding, can kind of help with some of the hurt feelings that are also happening there that we are all too proud to admit is part of the component. And so that is the biggest pitfall: is how do you work in a structure where you rely upon the friendship for trust, but you so quickly abuse it in the form of unintentional, like, sloughing off. Like it just it's not meant to, and it goes unspoken because it's small at first and then it builds. And that's sort of the real problem. And the answer is in the formality of your legal formation documents, specifically an operating agreement in the terms of an LLC, the bylaws of the corporation. The management structure has to be incredibly clear. And for God's sake, don't divvy up your voting power 50-50, whatever you do. Figure out who's going to be that 50.0001% person in charge. And it's got to be, and have it be the person whose vision is who you're following. Because if you have a 50-50, you're going to end up in court. You're going to end up being dissolved involuntarily by a judicial decision.
Yeah. That is solid advice. If I had a piece of advice, which it wouldn't involve the legal side of it, but from a intangible personality standpoint, I would say partnerships, in my experience, which I've worked with a lot of them and then of course been in them, but they've worked best when the partners had varying skill sets they brought to the table and they didn't have redundancies in skill sets. A lot of times, your friends, you have a lot of commonalities. You might get along because you're both type A or vice versa or whatever, right? And so I think when there's not as many redundancies there and you bring very varying skill sets, such as myself, my Alex Richardson, our VP of operations, he is a introvert. He's a developer. He does not want the limelight, does not want to be in the public. I mean, there were several years that people didn't even know that he owned part of the business. Like I'd be introduced at events and they and they don't even say anything about him. And he was okay with that because he wanted to be the introvert developer. And there was a place for that role, right? So I think trying to look at doing like a mini SWOT analysis and identifying if there's a big overlap and redundancies could be a healthy practice there. And sometimes it might be the right thing to go into a partnership with somebody that has a lot of redundancies in terms of skill set. That's okay, provided that if that's the case, you probably have redundancies and weaknesses. So I would go into that business formation and the business plan of identifying that in the SWOT analysis and how you're going to fill that gap.
Yeah, you know what? Just to put some evidence behind your thought there, although it was not nearly as with the forethought you're talking about. Easily my most successful business endeavor outside of my law firm had just that same kind of thing. This is going to shock you, but the other guy was the introvert.
Oh yeah, yeah. Never would have guessed it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm real surprised. Bundle of surprises over here. Yeah, same kind of thing. Guy could read code like the Matrix. It was just unbelievable. Anything you wanted done, he could somehow code it up. It was just crazy. But on the other hand, maybe don't let him talk to the clients too much.
Yeah. The service-based business model is a very, very difficult business model. It's very exhaustive. It's laborious. It's because unfortunately, when you sell one widget or you sell 100 widgets, that takes the same amount of time from a delivery standpoint, but it's not like that with the service-based business model. So this can be a very
emotional. The lack of tangibility screws it up somehow. I've always thought it's the lack of a tangible result that is somehow the problem. You can't take it home with you somehow. I've always thought if they could just hold it for a minute, they'd feel better about it somehow.
Yeah, and it can be emotionally draining. You want to talk about something that will test your relationship with someone, sure. Go into business with them in a service-based business model because you will because you're around each other all the time, you're inevitably going to reach each other at your emotionally drained, and that will test your relationship. So this is great, that formality right from the jump, because so many businesses are started informal of circumstances, which is okay. Some of the best. I'm not knocking that, but the very next step.
Yeah, my sympathies go out to it. This advice is the scenario in which you find yourself. Mistakes that I'm talking about are so understandable, and that's kind of why I started with the go easy on yourself. If you can think about it when you get into trouble, all of these are basically that's one of the things I tell my clients when they're all little. I'm like, all your time. Almost every company will go through the growing pain of a partner or peer readjustment period, and it's usually an exit is what happens, but it's just a symptom of success.
Yeah, and it's a great situation to be in, but nevertheless, that doesn't mean that you can't plan ahead. So this has been a great conversation, John. Where can our listeners connect with you or find out more about Wilbur Law online?
Thanks. I appreciate you asking that, Robert. Our law firm website is wilburlaw.com. It's my last name, WILLBURLAW.com. We have all the same Instagram and Facebook pages, Wilbur Law, those kind of things. But really, our website will provide you sort of our footprint, our mission, and the easiest way to get in contact with me. And it's been a great conversation with you also, Robert.
Yeah, John, thanks again. If you enjoyed this today, like, share, and subscribe to the Building Brands podcast. The key to business, mutually beneficial relationships. Thanks again, John. Appreciate you being here.
Robert, thank you.